Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Wix and I'll be your host for this video. You're probably wondering about the title. It's exactly like it sounds. Long story short, I've been trying to switch to Linux as my main desktop machine for the last 3 months. Tried a bunch of distros and eventually went back to Windows. And I have some knowledge to share from my experience. And also I've seen a lot of discussion online in YouTube video comments, or actually inside the videos, people arguing, no, this distro's better, no, this one's better, and so on. Linux is the best desktop system and stuff like that. And so let's have a little talk about our good old friend Linux here. And yeah, before all the comments were no, Windows is better than Linux, no, Linux is better than Windows, but wait, Mac is the true god of the desktop systems. I don't care about any of those things, and I don't care if comments come in with, but Wix, it's not Linux's fault that other companies don't make software for it. I don't care about that either. I'm here just as a regular user in 2022, trying to use my PC for whatever I want to use my PC for. And that's basically it. I don't care who's to blame. I don't care who makes Linux. I don't care about the open source or the other philosophy, the free software movements that are usually associated with Linux. I don't care about any of that. I just want my PC to work. And from that light, I have some findings. Let's see, how would a normal user use his PC? So we're at the part of Linux is great right now. A user in 2022, he might want to watch some YouTube videos. Sure, you can just open a browser, go to YouTube, click on your video, everything works, no problems. I've watched 4K, doesn't really matter. Well, this is a VM right now, as you can see. It's don't look at the name, it's random names. I don't use my real name in most things. So yeah, you can watch videos, no problem, works great. Maybe I want to browse the web, the same. You can browse the web normally, it's fast, it's stable, no problems. There's all the browsers you could want. If we go and check, I'm doing it like a normal user, okay? Don't get me stuff about oh, but why don't you do app search? We can do app search too, but as a normal user, I'm going to the store, the app store, and let's try. So if you want Chrome should be here, unless they have their own repository, but it's a bit slow because it's in a VM. Yeah, Chrome has their own repository. You can get Chromium, which is the open source version of Chrome. It's not a version of Chrome, it's the browser that Chrome is based on. And Microsoft Edge is based on this one too. They're both based on Chromium. You can get this, you have Firefox, probably have Opera, I didn't check, but all of them are available. I doubt there's one that they didn't support Linux, so it's just probably, yeah, see, Opera's here. It's just Chrome that probably has a separate repository for it. And let's try. It should be somewhere in here. Unless, yeah, it has a separate. Anyway, I'm diverting. So yeah, most of the browser, if not all, are on Linux. They work perfectly, no worries. Let's see, you wanna edit some pictures. Sure, you can install GIMP. It's right here. Just type it away, click this, and you click install. It doesn't matter where you get it from, to be honest. There's discussions about packaging too, but I'm not going to that. I'm a regular user. I'm just here to want to edit some of my photos. Install GIMP, or you can install Krita if you want to like draw, because I do use a graphical tablet to do some sketches and stuff. Krita is awesome. It was one of my worries of switching to Linux because I was using Photoshop before on Windows, and I wanted something where I could draw and with nice tablet support, and Krita was perfect. So picture editing, no problem. Free alternatives, you don't pay a dime. Let's see if I wanna edit some videos. Then you got KDN Live. I hope it's here. Yeah, there it is. You got DaVinci Resolve, but you gotta go to their site for it. No, Google, go away. They do have a Linux client. It's not as easy to install, but it's doable. So you can use this, no problem, for video editing. So video editing, again, all good. You wanna, let's say I wanna edit some documents, some Excel spreadsheets, not Excel, but Office. Let's go with Office. You can do everything, and there's a lot of Office suites for Linux. This is just one of them. This is just like the Word, and they have Calc, I think. Yeah, Calc is. This is the spreadsheets. Of course, they don't have all the features of Microsoft, but if you're that advanced in using Office, then you might just need Office from Microsoft. Otherwise, there's LibreOffice that I have here right now. There's OpenOffice, I believe I've seen around. I didn't try any of the Office because I don't really use Office. And there's OnlyOffice, which I heard is kind of the best if you want the best compatibility with the Microsoft suite. This one I heard is the best. I didn't try any because I don't use them. I don't use Office. So, but people in 2022 might want to edit some documents. Sure, there you go. No problems. For email, you can either use your browser, like normal people do, or you can be one of the little weirdos that use offline email. This is an email client just like Outlook, and it's not the only one, and it's free. You do have offline email clients for Linux too. No problem. You can set multiple accounts. You can do whatever. I don't like doing that because I don't like having emails on my PC because space, and in case something happens to the PC, they might steal emails. So I don't trust any. I trust the browser more than my own hard drive. So I don't want any emails locally. That's why I said little weirdos that use offline emails. I just don't like it. But you can do it. If you want an Outlook on Linux, yeah, you got Thunderbird, and there's others. I haven't used others. I only use Thunderbird, but that's about it. Let's say you want to print some documents. I don't have a printer set up here, I don't think, because it's a VM and I doubt it sees my printer. But why not? Let's check. Yeah, it's printers on Linux, easy. My experience was just plug it in and it worked, and it was a yeah, I can't find it because I'm in a VM. It's a network printer. It just found it, no drivers required. It just worked, with a little asterisk to that, because depending on the printer, you might be missing some features on Linux. If the printer has some fancy features that only the Windows driver has, and they didn't implement those in the Linux drivers, you might be missing those. But for basic printing, choosing the profile like draft or quality or color or black and white, those work perfectly, no problems on Linux. And it was pretty seamless. Let's say maybe I want to do some gaming. It works. Long story short, gaming works. You can get Steam. I doubt it's maybe it's actually in the store. Yeah, see, you can get Steam. You can get Lutris. Lutris is what you use if you wanna play games that are not on Steam, like if you wanna play some Battle.net games or Star Citizen or stuff like that. You install Lutris. It's pretty easy with Lutris too. You go to lutris.net. and then you look for your game. Let's say Star Citizen, because this is the one I played through Lutris. I also played Overwatch through Lutris, but yeah, just go here, click install. It's gonna run some scripts. Works. Yeah, I do have. That's in most cases, games will work. Now, depending if you're playing a weird game with some weird anti-cheat, those might not be supported in Linux. Like one example is Rainbow Six Siege from Ubisoft. That will not get supported in Linux. It doesn't work. Other games with anti-cheat work, like Apex Legends. That one works. Star Citizen works. I even played Darktide and Vermintide, the new game. The Darktide is the new one. Even play that. It does have anti-cheat. It worked. I played Squad from Steam with anti-cheat. It worked. So it's a bit hit and miss with these. Most of them need tweaks to get the same performance, or decent performance, at least playable performance. They will need tweaks, but if you're willing to go look around, like for Steam games, you look on ProtonDB. That something ProtonDB. Let's just look for it. Yeah, .com. So yeah, you come here. Look, I looked on Darktide. This is the one I played lately. It says gold here, but you should look through, because it doesn't work the same for everyone, because everyone is on a different distribution and so on. They have different settings. So it's worth coming here and trying some of these tweaks that people are saying, but usually it's pretty painless. So yeah, in general, gaming works depending on what game you play, because there are some that don't work with Linux no matter what you do. But let's put this as, yes, gaming works. So far, what I've said till now is what a, let's say, normal person needs in 2022, and they work out of the box. Yeah, you will maybe have problems if you want to watch some videos offline and you don't have the codecs. You do have to go and do a bit of Googling around, see how you install the codecs. I had that problem on Fedora, but after you install them, works just fine, no problem. So yeah, if that's what you do with your PC, awesome. Linux is great for you and you don't need anything else. I'm not going to go into which distribution you should use, because that's kind of a personal preference in the end. They're all good depending on how you want to work with them and how much time you want to put into them, because some of them require more configuration, some of them work mostly out of the box. But so far, Linux is great. I would not use Windows if that's all I did with my PC. There is no reason. Even if you use Microsoft services like Azure or OneDrive or stuff like that, you can use them on Linux too. There's no problem. And now we go into the second part of the video, where we go to the but. Because the title is Linux is great for desktop, but. And now we go into the but. So problems come up when you're trying to do a bit more with your PC. So maybe if you're a bit of a tech enthusiast and you care about the latest and greatest hardware, latest games and technologies, and you want to try them, you're kind of a bit out of luck here, because some might work, some might not. I haven't tried everything, but I can tell you there's some games that day one they were not working on Linux, so you had to wait a few days or switch to Windows for a few days to play that game. And that's not the only example, there's more. But yeah, if you're a bit of a latest tech, latest hardware, latest stuff, you gotta wait a bit until they get to Linux, because that's how it usually goes. And usually you don't get to use all those latest things at the same time as people on other OSs. I'll just say a few here, because I'm being too vague. I gotta give some examples, right? So I'll just give some examples. These are just ones that I can think at the top of my head from the last 3 months that I fooled around on Linux and tried to do, because I was doing them on my Windows. So I wanted to see, let's go, let's switch to Linux full time. I actually was thinking that I will only use Linux from that time on. But we're in the but section, and I had a lot of but. So yeah, the first one, I have a VR headset. Most people are saying, it doesn't work on Linux. I thought, nah, it has to. What do you mean it doesn't work on Linux? I just have to, like, being techie and tech savvy, I thought, yeah, I'll just dig through the internet and I'll make it work. And I did progress decently enough with Steam VR. I got a game to run and render in VR, but the problem is I have the Rift S. I don't have a Valve Index. And Steam VR on Linux, it doesn't support the Rift S. Maybe there was another way to do it, but after spending like 3 or 4 days on it, I gave up. So if you ask me, VR on Linux, nope. So basically that's one thing I can't do with my Linux that I can do easily with Windows. I just put the headset on and it works. Let's say I want to enjoy my flashy HDR monitor on Linux. No can do. Shit out of luck. Doesn't support HDR. That's another problem. And this is a problem. I mean, I had one of the problems. If you have like high resolution monitors and multiple monitors, sometimes it can break. I've had one game that thought two of my monitors were the whole desktop that it should render on. So basically it opened on 2 monitors on the same time. I don't know why that happened. I fixed it in the end, but I don't know why that happened. And I've heard other people, friends, they were having trouble with their 4K displays and multiple monitors getting switched around. I didn't experience that much, but that's what I've heard from my friends. So take that as you will. Let's say you have a Go XLR. You like that cool little mixer that's Go XLR, or maybe some Elgato gear for streaming. Again, this is a hit and miss with Linux because they don't have support on Linux. In my case, I mean, I know the key lights, those don't work. They don't have software to control them from Linux. So that's these ones, key light Elgato. These have software only for Windows. Yeah, you can control them from Linux. You can control them from your phone, but I mean, why degrade the experience? I just want to click something in my top bar and change my lights. The Go XLR, yeah, doesn't have support. And that's just one example. The drivers wouldn't see my capture card, my Elgato capture card. Curious thing was that if I use the Nuvo drivers that come with Ubuntu, or the normal drivers that come with Fedora, they would see my Elgato capture card. Once I switched to NVIDIA drivers, it wouldn't see the capture card. It saw it as a very low resolution third display. So yeah, hit and miss with the capture card too. Maybe, let's say you're excited about the direct storage. If you don't know what this is a new technology from Microsoft that basically allows your GPU to decompress the textures and access the hard drive directly without going through the CPU, without the limit of I/O, because right now they have an I/O limit. And direct storage that will be added, or I think maybe they already released it in DirectX. It will allow the GPU to access the drive directly without going through the CPU and decompress the textures in the GPU, not in the CPU, which will be way faster. If you want that, you won't have that on Linux. So another technology that you won't be able to take advantage of. Maybe DXVK will add something for it. I don't know, but if they do, it's probably not going to be as good as the Windows one. From my experience, from what I've seen when they implement drivers from Microsoft to Linux or from Windows to Linux, they're missing features usually. And these are just a few things that I've hit in these 3 months. There's others, but I'm not doing like an encyclopedia of everything missing from Linux. No, these are just some examples that I've hit in these last 3 months. And of course, if you go to gaming, if you want a bit more, let's say, hardcore gaming, air quotes here, like you want some add-ons for the games, some of them work. The World of Warcraft ones work. The Final Fantasy one, you have to fight it a lot. It worked eventually, but it has problems with overlays. Linux has problem with overlays in Wine. So if you have add-ons that show overlays on your game, those won't work in Linux. The fancy peripherals, like I don't know, RGB keyboards with 15 functions, sync the color between them. Yeah, you won't have that on Linux. There is third-party software. OpenRGB is one of them. They do a decent job. You can change colors. Oh, it's not even here, but you can get it installed. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, you can install third-party ones. Even Razer has Razer RGB Linux. Let me see. OpenRazer, yeah, that's the name. I only tried OpenRGB. I didn't try OpenRazer. It works. It can control my Razer devices, but it can't change my macros. It can't sync the colors between all my Razer devices. It can't turn off the lighting if my screens are off, for example, that it can do on Windows. So there are options for some of them, because not all of the peripherals have software for Linux, but most of them do, but they're just missing features that you get to have on Windows and Mac, I believe. So that's another thing, like my motherboard utilities, my AIO utilities. There are some equivalents for Linux, but they don't have all the features, and I want my features. If you don't use the features, sure, you have no problem, you don't care. But I am using some of those features and I miss them. What about maybe you have an NVIDIA card and you wanna enjoy all the RTX sweetness? Again, you can use NVIDIA on Linux, but you can't use RTX. The NVIDIA driver for Linux is behind the official Windows one, and it's missing features. If you wanna like get the most out of your graphics card, it's not on Linux, or it's not with NVIDIA. One of those. If you go AMD, yeah, sure, maybe. I didn't test AMD, but maybe that driver is better, but the NVIDIA one, nope. And even the open source NVIDIA, the driver that they put out, have you looked at it? It's not even the whole driver. So yeah, I was still using the closed source NVIDIA driver because the open source one was worse. NVIDIA SMI couldn't connect to the open source driver. So I was still using the closed source one because it worked better. So that's, again, you have to choose. Get the most out of your NVIDIA or go AMD. Oh, another one was I used to stream on Twitch. Another headache there, because I was using like a virtual mixer with virtual audio devices to send different audio to different tracks in the stream. So in the VOD, they will only record one and not the others. I was sending, let's say you want to use 2 PCs to stream. I need my sound to go over the network and I need that sound come back to me from the streaming PC. It was a pain to set all that up on Linux. It worked eventually through some NDI plugin. It worked with this in the end, but it was a pain to set up, and the sound, all that setup that I had on Windows, I couldn't do it in Linux because the virtual audio devices are really hard to play with in Linux. I did use Carla to patch things up and redirect, but it's still wasn't enough. You can get Pipewire, virtual audio devices, there's commands you can do. There's no graphical utility, that's another thing, but let's we're in the advanced section here. Advanced using your PC. You're not looking for GUI for everything. But yeah, Pipewire is okay, but it's not there yet. And that's just for streaming. If you wanna have like a little home studio and do professional audio and stuff, not really. Good luck. The experience is hit or miss, and sometime will still break. You'll still have to redo all your configs, or you'll just come home trying to make a song and stuff isn't working. What do I do? And start checking what's broken. Instead of actually doing your music, you gotta stay and fix the sound. How about maybe some advanced thing, actually what I try to do, because I am a software engineer, software development on Linux. It's good. I can't say I had a bad experience. It was good. I tried, of course, Visual Studio Code, but I tried GNOME Builder. It was decent. It was decent. The only problem I had with this one was the way they do the UI, but I'm not a GNOME developer, so I don't really care. Visual Studio Code works as good as it runs on Windows, so that was not a problem. The only problem was that I couldn't find an IDE for like bigger projects, like C++ or C# projects, because I couldn't do that with Visual Studio Code. The IntelliSense is just awful and crashed all the time. The IntelliSense crashed, not Visual Studio Code. But Visual Studio Code is not an IDE. Visual Studio Code is a code editor. It's great for doing web apps, for scripting languages, for maybe other things. That's just the two I can think of right now. But an IDE for like huge projects with 20 projects in them and stuff, I couldn't find one. And there is Rider. There is this one. Who makes it? I forgot. JetBrains. Yeah, there is this one. That's great. This one runs on Windows and Linux, and it's awesome. Some people say it's even better than Visual Studio. But this one is not free, so I didn't pay for it. But yeah, you can get this one. Development shouldn't be a problem, whatever you're doing. But if you, like for more advanced stuff, like what I do for work, I do some Docker integration. Like my IDE Visual Studio is integrated with Docker, so I can just build my Docker images from Visual Studio and run them. And I have some database integration projects in Visual Studio, so I can just deploy a schema on the database or reset it or update straight from Visual Studio. I haven't found anything on Linux that can do that. So if you're doing that kind of work, I wouldn't suggest it, because Visual Studio is not on Linux, just Visual Studio Code is, and that one doesn't have that. Unless there's some plugins for it, I don't know. Maybe people can tell me in the comments, but I didn't dig far enough for this. But if you want to go for game development, which I do on Windows, then you're out of luck on Linux. I've tried Unreal, I've tried Unity, both with Visual Studio Code. Unreal barely ran, and it was missing assets, because those assets that they have in their libraries are not compiled for Linux or something like that. I didn't dig too much into it, but they just said unsupported on Linux, like their new library of, I forget the name of it. So they're missing assets, you're missing features, like their new technologies with the lighting and the level of detail that they added in Unreal 5, those don't work on Linux. Unity was fine, but still missing features that I had on Linux. Missing stuff from the pipeline, for the rendering pipelines. Shaders were a bit iffy. IntelliSense for Visual Studio Code is god awful, so I refuse to write code for gaming in Visual Studio Code. I mean, the IntelliSense is awful in Visual Studio Code anyway. It's just that for web, There's just not as many files or words to look into to get your IntelliSense. But if you go to C++, for example, it's millions of lines of code that it has to look through, and it can't do it. So yeah, game development, in my experience, what I've tried, Unreal and Unity, I wouldn't bother. I would rather just go to Windows. So yeah, basically that was my experience, and that's my point. Linux is great. I love Linux. But if you're trying to do more, want the latest stuff, yeah, not very good. And one point here is that recently I've started not to trust the drivers, because I don't know if you guys know, there's the AMD workaround Linux. Yeah, this one. I hate these things, but I always click them all and confirm. So basically the story of this one is that in 2002 they put a workaround in the Linux kernel for AMD systems for managing power, and that workaround just basically made AMD CPUs work with Linux, but it slowed them down. And that workaround was only removed in 2022. Everybody forgot about it, and since 2002 till now, the AMD CPUs were gimped in the kernel on Linux. And that just blew my mind. So yeah, now I can't even trust the drivers that I'm getting the most out of my hardware. Because how did this happen? So yeah, this is just a development software engineer pet peeve of mine. I can't understand how. If I would do this in my work, I would get fired. But yeah, I lost a bit of faith in the Linux drivers. And I think that's about it. But don't get me wrong, I love Linux. I wish I could switch full-time to Linux. I like how it's made. From my point of view, like a software engineer point of view, Linux makes more sense to me. Like the architecture it has makes more sense and seems logical. I understand it better. It's easier than Windows for me to understand. And I would love to switch full-time to Linux, but right now I just can't. I want my hardware to be used to the fullest that it can do. I like all those features that you get on other OSs. They are like little things, but they're comfort things. Most of all, I fix stuff at work all the time. I solve problems, I fix bugs, create new stuff. When I get home, I just want my stuff to work. I don't want to spend another 3 hours trying to fix some pipe-wire redirection config, or why is my game framing all of a sudden, or stuff like that. I don't want to tweak with it to make it work. I want it to just work. And I also made this video because we have to acknowledge the problems that Linux has right now. Because if we don't acknowledge the problems, nobody will solve it. If we just go, oh, Linux is great on desktop, sure, then you're not solving any problem. The problems it has, it will still be there. I'm just hoping by making this tiny video in an unknown channel on YouTube, maybe I can get more eyes on the problems and maybe people will fix them. Because if we just ignore the problem, it's not going to go away. It's just going to carry for another 10 years, and in 10 years we'll still have the same problems. So yeah, that was my rant. Thank you for watching so far, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.